Chapter 9. An open atlas was placed in front of Bai Hongxue, Shi. Looking sadly at the map of Hubei, which is located in the southwest of Inner Mongolia. Aldo's Plateau. Just now, Cessna told Bai Hongxue that tomorrow Tigis will bring. They went to visit the mausoleum of Genghis Khan. After hearing the news, Bai Hong Shui immediately asked Amu Galen to find an atlas for her. Is she in a hurry? Can wait to turn the map book to the page of the topographic map of Inner Mongolia. Can. Yes, when Bai Hongxue saw it, the Ordos Plateau appeared on the map. When a piece of withered yellow representing the desert appeared, the excited look in her eyes. Color gradually withered. Suddenly, troubled and confused, she whispered. Shouted, Genghis Khan is the king of the grassland, why should he be buried in the desert? Centuries ago, Ordos was a land of lush water and grass. Wilderness. When Genghis Khan passed through here on his westward expedition, his heroic heart. It was because I was moved by the gorgeous boundless sea of flowers in the field that I made my will. He asked his generals to escort the bodies to Ordos after his death, so that the galloping horses trampled his flesh and blood on this beautiful wilderness. Broken. Perhaps Genghis Khan wanted to keep his brave soul forever. The wildflowers on the Mongolian grasslands are blooming together. Speaking of which, Amu Galen's already low voice became gloomy after. Over the past several hundred years, a large number of Han peasants have been. Huang came to Ordos, and after the grassland was destroyed, the grassland became desert. Up. Especially in 1959, when Mao Zedong's commune. After the catastrophe in rural China caused by the globalization movement, more farmers flocked. Come in and reclaim the farmland, the grassland is destroyed, and Ordos high. A black sandstorm blew up on the plain. Listening to Amu Guling's gloomy and dry voice, Bai Hongxue finished. I lost all interest in Ordos if I didn't feel rejected. Tigis' invitation is impolite, she wants to stay at home tomorrow. Up. The next morning, General Tigis silver gray volley. Add a car and a military off-road jeep and drive to the Tigis residential building. Stop before. Off-road jeep is a riding company stationed in the outer suburbs of Hohhot. Sent by the regiment commander. In the 1950s, Tigis served as a rider in Inner Mongolia. When the army was an independent division commander, the regimental commander was the company commander under Tigis. Yesterday, Cessna found Greg on the campus of Inner Mongolia University. La said to him, my father invites you to go to Genghis Khan tomorrow. Tomb. After finishing speaking, for some reason, Cessna deliberately emphasized. He added another sentence, my father invited you to go. And Gera. There was only a slight nod to her, which made her very sad. Later, when the song and dance troupe rehearsed The Hunter and the Maiden, Cessna met Tumun. She suddenly decided to invite Tumun to go to Ordo together. Today, Cessna got up before dawn. She put herself. He took out all his dresses and piled them on the bed, choosing for a long time. Finally, she put on an apricot yellow Mongolian dress, because, goo. President La likes to wear golden Mongolian gowns, she picked another red one. The scarf tied up the black hair because gala is fire. Flame means. However, at this moment, Cessna is charmingly swaying her slender and flexible body. Waist, followed Tumun, deliberately not looking at Gera, from his walk by. Her dark eyes sparkled brightly. A tender and sweet smile emerged from the red lips and whispered to Tumun. Talking. However, even though she did not notice what she said, something happened. After General Tigis walked out of the house, he and Gera sat in a Volga car. Cessna knew that the Volga was still. It can seat two people, however, she pulled Tumun and squeezed into the door of the off-road jeep that Muguling and Bai Hongxue were riding in. But, yes, just sat in the driver's seat of the jeep, Cessna. His shoulders drooped in frustration, and the smile on his red lips disappeared. In a sad look, her dark eyes looked ahead at Vol. Adding a car, I suddenly regret not sitting in the same car as Guerra. Middle. The off-road Jeep followed the Volga sedan and quickly drove out of the urban area, and then, along the asphalt road at the southern foot of the Incheon Mountains, to West Gallops. The heliosphere is like a huge rock that has been burnt dark red, presenting in the sea of gray-blue clouds on the horizon over a slight slope to the south. The vast wilderness of the Chili River can be seen winding and stretching in the distance. In the sky, the Yellow River is shining with golden red luster, south of the Yellow River. In the pale mist, the boundless silver-gray desert looms. To the north, the majestic peaks of the Incheon Mountains are covered with wind-eroded cracks. Body, like blue-black thunder and lightning carved in the desolate sky. Stone statues of ancient Mongolian warriors, solemnly falling on a steep mountain. Pieces of morning light on the peak are like those on the armor split by a sword. Scarlet blood rust. The cold and gorgeous condensed in the wild and vast scenery. The beautiful beauty made by Hongxiue feel a little more relaxed, although. However, the light is light gray. She has been silently looking out of the car window. It seemed to be avoiding Amu Galen's eyes. Before, although I don't like Amu Galen's eyes, but she often looks at those eyes. The eyes stared as if silently expecting Amu Guling's eyes. A dark and heavy melancholy that will one day crack. However, in Inner Mongolia. From then on, Bai Hongxiue found that Amu Galen's eyes became more and more annoying to her. Tired, she was perplexed by it. Maybe to escape this boredom, she began to try her best to avoid staring at Amu Galen. Oh, the eyes of this young man named Tumon are also dark. Gray is also so melancholy, but how intense this melancholy appears. Ah! Yes, like dark gray clouds ignited by lightning. Why? So Amu Galen's eyes are so melancholy that it makes people tired? Just now, in front of the car, when Bai Hongxiue saw Tumon for the first time, she suddenly thought. And the thought kept bugging her. Amu Galen, look how red the sun is. Bai Hongxiue said softly, almost subconsciously. At first moment, she didn't know. Why did she say this sentence, but soon she understood. Yes, she wanted the sun to shine into Amuguling's eyes, she wanted to know. Dao, under the glow of the crimson sun, Amu Guling's eyes were dark gray. What kind of mood will appear in the melancholy? When Amu Galen slowly moved. When the broad face turned to the rear window, Bai Hongxiue immediately revealed. Looking eagerly and begging, he watched Amu Galen's eyes from the side. However, she immediately lowered her eyes in disappointment. She found. As soon as the crimson light waves of the heliosphere on the horizon fall to Amugulingin, Yu's eyes turned an unsightly, rusty dark brown color. Can't the sun set his eyes on fire? Bai Hongxiue cried out in pain in her heart. General Tigis in the driver's seat in the Volga. Seated, staring silently at the rearview mirror above the front window. Look into Guerra's eyes reflected in the rearview mirror. Just like when you were young. Riding on a neighing horse, rushing towards the enemy's gleaming bloodstained knife. Like a spear, clusters of black and blue eyes burst out from General Tigis' eyes. Brilliant sparks. For quite a long time, every week. On the same day, Tigis asked Cessna to invite Guerra to his home to write on his behalf. Guessed. It's not because Tigis feels alone, his fate is full of. The first step is to walk out of the pool of blood and pain his heart has long been. Hard enough not to ask anyone for help to overcome loneliness. Fact. Even when he was with Guerra, he rarely talked. They just, in a searing silence that both could feel, guzzle. Spicy liquors. General Tigis invited Guerra as a guest, but it's because he likes to often see the glare of the pair of dazzling passion. hard eyes, as in his youth he loved to gaze upon golden, like the blade of a war knife flying in the sun. Whenever General Tegus and when Gera looked at each other, from Gera's bronze sunset-like eyes, here, General Tegus can detect a ray of sharpness with a hint of madness. Lee's sentiments make his heart run like the galloping hooves of a warhorse, jump up and down quickly. The Mongol general seemed to have an old man in his heart. Yu's indelible, sharp sense of hardness and wildness. Love, that is deep purple love. 12 years ago, as the commander of the Independent Cavalry Division, Tegus part to the northern border to inspect the troops. Once, he passed by. When I was in Yinbohad by the Arguna River, I met Gera's grandfather. Up in the initial gaze, the old man named Timur Naning. Iron gray eyes with a sense of coldness and pride moved Gus's heart. They sat in Timur's yurt and drank a lot. After drinking, blood seeped from Timur's iron gray eyes and began to tell Tegus about Gera's life experience. Shortly after Gera was born, his mother died. It was me and his wife raised him, about 10 years ago, a tall. Young people from the upper reaches of the Arguna River came to our Yinboheo. Special, settled in my yurt. He told us he was leaving. All over the grasslands, looking for the son that belongs to the Mongolians. My daughter is in love with him. Oh, her name is Tana. That lad stayed for 10 days. Just left and never came back. During those 10 days, Tana. They all accompany him, sitting on the feather grass on the bank of the Ergun River. In the middle, while combing his long black hair like a raven's wing, singing for him. Song. Tana's singing made the clouds burn red. Yeah, those days. The fire cloud is particularly red, as if the sky is bleeding. That guy. After her son left, Tana withered with the autumn flowers and her song. The sound and laughter flew away like larks, never to return. Up. She often sits on that piece of feather grass and stares blankly at the sky. By the way, hey, Mongolian women are like this, falling in love with a man, give him your heart. When a man leaves, a woman's heart is taken with her. Gone. In the summer of the second year, Tana walked into the feathers alone. In the grass, Gera was born. That day, when I come back from the horse, I will find it. When she saw her, she found that there was so much blood flowing out of her body, the snow white. Blood was splashed all over the feather grass. After 2 days, Tana died. Up. Before she died, she asked me to find that young man and deliver Gera to give him. However, she didn't even know his name. She did not ask him. All Tana told me was that the guy left. The night before, she was on his chest, where the heart beat. Bit off a piece of meat and gave him a short knife, the fringe of which was hers. Made of her hair, hers was black and long. When combing her hair, she stood on the stone, and her hair still touched the stone. Beside wildflowers. Oh, Tana also said, the lad told her. When the sun of Mongolia's fate rises brilliantly again, he will return to this grassland. That autumn, the water of the Ergun River overflowed. On the high bank. Hey, Tana came to this world, it seems. It is to give birth to a boy who can make the Ergun River overflow the steep bank. Son. I tell you this because I want you to help me find that year. Young people. He never came back and I don't blame him. Mongolian boy. The heart is as turbulent as a statue, which flower bush can hold the wind. I just want to find a father for Gera. Old Timur's dry rock-like voice can still be heard today. Sometimes it hits the memory of General Tegus hard. For 12 years, Tegus are constantly on the lookout for a chest and the heartbeat. There is a man with beautiful tooth marks, looking for the tassel of the knife is a girl's show. A Mongolian dagger made of long hair. However, he has never turned up. Gera sat alone in the middle of the back seat of the Volga. In the middle of the day, the gorgeous wildness shines in the depths of the eyes, looking straight ahead. The Volga sedan undulates slightly during its speeding, which makes Gera produce. Feel like riding a galloping horse, chasing the silver-gray gust of wind. Sleep. The real Mongolian steed will make the rider feel like riding on violent and shaking thunderbolts, however, when the horse's belly. When flying close to the top of tall grass, it will produce the current. It feels like flying on a slightly undulating gust of wind. Does Amu Galen still have this feeling? Does he still like this feeling? Gera suddenly thought this way and frowned slightly. Outstretched long eyebrows like eagle wings. Since the last heavy snow fell in early spring this year, Gera has been looking forward to summer. He knows that Amu Galen is graduating from university this summer. Industry. He is looking forward to the return of Amu Galen, and they will go to the wilderness together again. The original went to drink and drink, staring at the sunset together in intoxication. Can. Yes, when he got a Mugulin from Cessna, he wanted the same Han. Women from the ethnic group to get married and leave Inner Mongolia to settle in the south. After her death, his nostalgia for Amu Guling disappeared irretrievably. Lost in the cold strangeness. Gera is not at all worried about the previous days. When he met a Mugulin for the first time on the outskirts of Hohhot, he was very impressed with Amu Galen. Mugalen regretted the insulting words. He felt that if not, by uttering that sentence, he insulted the relationship between him and a Mugling. A bronze-colored friendship with a breath of the wild. This morning, Gala. After arriving at Cessna's house, apart from a brief exchange with General Tegas. After talking for a few words, I didn't talk to anyone again. However, but his eyes kept staring at Amu Galen coldly as if he wanted to. In the hard collision with Amu Guling's eyes, he and Amu Galen were crushed. The cold strangeness between Muguling and Amu Guling. Avoiding his gaze, he walked into the off-road jeep. In the process of studying in the history department of Inner Mongolia University, Gela produced. A concept was born that the bravery of ancient Mongolian warriors was not in the blood. In the fierce battle of Yufei, he was chopped to pieces by the sword but disappeared into the alien world. Under the affectionate gaze of the girl from the country, because no one has the edge to compete with Mongolian warriors, however, in the foreign beauty. In the deep concentration flowing with the rich and erotic beauty, the Mongolian Wu. The beast-like scarlet blood of the warriors gradually faded, and the Mongolian warriors were hard. The heart of iron and stone has softened, and the bravery of the Mongolian warriors is like flying in the sky. The golden leaves fell. Gera is not based on logical reasoning, but on emotional. Intuition produced this idea he did not bother to use. Rational logic goes to tedious arguments. He felt that any need. Concepts that demand rational and logical babble are unattractive. Powerful. And in that idea born of emotional intuition, the Mongolian. How the samurai's prowess disappears is very moving, poetic and rich. Prosperous withering is a kind of beautiful withering. This is confirmed for Gera. That idea is enough. However, Amu Guling wants to be the same as the Han. The fact that a woman from the ethnic group got married and left Inner Mongolia made Gera deeply moved. 2. In the withered depths of that beauty, condensed the dark, tormented fog of fate. Gera saw this kind of mist of misery, but do not know how to make the mist of darkness, burning into a silver-gray flame. Afternoon, the car turned south and crossed the Yellow River. Highway bridge entered the Ordos Plateau and continued along the wide gravel road sped south. The uninhabited and vast wilderness stretches quietly into the distance. Square, the slightly undulating horizon melts into the gray-blue clouds in the sky. Middle, clumps of black-green saponica and pale blue flowers. The dry ground covered with gravel is exposed between the Mariana grasses, wasteland. Only a few tall golden camels are roaming. The clouds are like steep and majestic peaks, clinging to the ground and facing south. Fog drifted away. The bottom of the cloud cluster showed a dignified dark gray and the cloud. But on the top of the mass shines a blinding silvery white. Boundless bronze silence, a prairie eagle stretches reddish-brown. Flying in the clouds with long wings, the long and shrill howl of the eagle seems to be a sharp scar burst open in the hard silence. It's not as withered and yellow as it is painted on the map, it's not at all. No, this is a bronze-colored plateau. By Hong Shue excited. Thinking emotionally, her beautiful long eyes became bright and solemn. Like a silvery wave frozen in a sapphire-colored wind. Tao, the silence torn apart by the howling of eagles, is more like a song covered in scarlet. Bronze-colored requiem for scars. By Hong Shue thought. This desolate plateau rising in the sky seems to be a vast. The boundless cemetery, where the bones of Mongolian heroes and epics are buried. Soul. There seems to be a piece of golden sunshine in the girl's heart, any sorrow. The shadow of sorrow will soon melt into the sunshine. Enter air. After DOS, Cessna seems to have completely forgotten the troubles caused by the relationship. She keeps sticking her beautiful head out of the car. Outside the window, the black hair with blue light fluttered in the gust of wind. Welcome. The screaming wind that rushed towards her made her face turn pale. But her beautiful, red lips were filled with fiery expressions. Open slightly, as if kissing the bronze-colored wind, and as if kissing the wind. Confess brilliant feelings to the wind that is swaying and screaming. Cessna's heart began to eagerly look forward to seeing her Uncle Chaolu. Uncle. Chaolu was originally the deputy commander of the Inner Mongolia Independent Cavalry Division. 5-9. In 1999, he and his division commander, General Tigis, refused to lead his troops to Tibet, went to suppress religious riots, and was dismissed from the military. After that, soon, his wife fell ill and died. He gave up the authority to the public office was assigned to him and returned to his hometown with his daughter Toya. Become a horse herder in the wilderness of Ordos. Cessna not only. We are close friends with Tuya, and we also have a deep affection for Chaolu. Thick feelings. Chaolu has taught her to ride a horse since she was 5 years old. Color. She now still remembers that Chaolu would often hold her in one giant hand. The slender waist held her in front of the saddle of the galloping horse. As much as possible. Although the violent wind blew away the bright blush on her cheeks. Yes, she has no fear at all, but always holds her hand tightly with little hands. Grab the long mane of the flying horse, imitate the brave cavalry warrior. A sharp cry urged the horse to run faster. The beautiful wildness floating in the sharp and immature childish voice is often. Chaolu laughed out loud from time to time. Cessna always felt that smile. The sound seemed to come from cracked rock. Perhaps it is because she often gallops on horseback since she was a child. Cessna has long. Empress Dowager also especially likes the gust of wind that hits her face. That howling wind. There's wild masculinity in it that drives her, sometimes. At this moment, she even felt that the howling wind seemed to tear her chest apart. Roaring in the depths of her heart. And at that moment, she would realize that my heart is as far away as a wilderness, and can hold the world. The most violent and mighty storm. Not long ago, from a letter from Chaolu to Tigis, Cessna. It was learned that he married another wife. So, Cessna often picture Chaolu, the newlywed wife, in his mind. She must. It's beautiful. The flowers by the rocks are lovely. Oh. She must be very tall, so she is suitable for Uncle Chaolu, because Chaolu is so strong. Cessna was so sure at last. At this moment, she suddenly had an irresistible urge, wanting to meet Uncle Chaolu's wife soon to find out if your imagination is accurate. At dusk, the outline of a small town appeared ahead. Tegu. In his letter to Chaolu, General C asked Chaolu to go to this city called Yijinhuo, Luo's small town, to pick them up. The western sky is filled with crimson sunset glow, wisps of gold. Colored, swirling pillars of wind flicker on the desolate horizon, like a troupe of ancient Mongolian beauties from distant times, dragging the flying skirt, dancing before the purple sunset. Cessna suddenly discovered that a dozen unmanned galloping horses came from out of the sunset glow in the sky, across the wilderness, slanting towards their steam. The car is coming. The lion-like manes of the galloping horses are wild in the dry wind, flying up in chaos, dragging billowing dust behind, gradually approaching. Up. Cessna saw that the iron-blue fierce horse in the front. The figure of a rider appeared. The rider's huge head gave. With a rock-like hardness, the robust body bends down like a tiger that only leaps on horseback. Suddenly, the rider made a loud noise. With a rough and wild howl, almost at the same time, Cessna startled. He screamed happily, "Uncle Chaolu!" The military jeep shrieked along with the Volga sedan in front. The sound suddenly stopped. Billowing ash trailing behind her car. Dust flew over and surrounded the jeep. The dust hasn't floated yet. Scattered, Cessna jumped out of the door of the jeep and moved quickly. Jia's legs ran towards Chaolu. Chaolu jumped off his horse, stretched his cattle. With arms as thick as legs, he strode toward Cessna. Like a ray of golden whirling wind, Cessna rushed toward Chaolu. With a broad and thick chest, he encircled Chaolu, shone with arms like flower branches. Cow-like neck, and then her eyes flashed with a brilliant madness. She eagerly asked a series of questions. "Your bride must be beautiful. So bright, is she prettier than me? Are you happy? Her figure won. It must be tall, isn't it?" Without waiting for Chaolu's answer, Cessna squeezed her beautiful cheeks tightly again. Sticking to the tough beard on Chaolu's chin, crystal blue seeped out of his eyes. With tears in her eyes, she said softly, "I miss you very much, and I also miss Toya." She. "Okay?" Chaolu didn't speak, his eyes showed a moved look. Put a huge palm around Cessna's waist, as if carefully. Surrounded by a bright Sunday sea, General Tigis from Vol. After stepping out of the car, Chaoluna was tanned black and red by the sun. A serious look appeared on his long, broad face. He gently pushes. Kaiser Sena took a step forward and stopped again. Kealuhit. Gus just looked into each other's eyes from a distance. You've got gray hair, but there are warts in your eyes." "The charm of the knife," said Tigis quickly and briefly. "Your hair is grayer, but your eyes are still young. As deep as the cavalry warriors." Chaolu also answered briefly. The eyes of General Tigis and Chaolu looking directly at each other, in the hard bronze sparks seemed to burst out from the collision. They suddenly. He walked towards the other party with big strides and hugged the other party's shoulder briefly and forcefully. Head, and then laughed wildly at the same time. Bai Hongxue stood silently beside the off-road jeep, looking at Tigis and Chaolu. Their gesture of embracing each other gave Bai Hongxue 2 seats. The feeling of steep mountains colliding in the scorching wind, and she. Feeling extremely sensitive to sound waves, Zhao Lu's laughter shocked him. With the hardness of a purple rock, Tigis's laughter. A silver-gray wind blew across the moor. After coming to Inner Mongolia. During this period, Bai Hongxue often felt that Tigis was too cold. His attitude towards a Muguling was cold and even cruel. However, at this moment, Bai Hongxue suddenly discovered that General Tigis's stern, buried blazing, beautiful passion.